My name is Hannah Costrin. I am the Scholar in Residence at the Bates Dance Festival this summer, and I'm really thrilled to be here. And I'm really also very thankful that I can talk to you this evening about Doug Varone and dancers. And what I'm going to do in this pre-performance talk, this InsideDance talk, is give you a little bit of a sense of the work that you're going to see tonight, and then also tell you a little bit about the company. I'm excited for this performance tonight because I find Doug Varone's choreography exhilarating. The dancers in his company swoop, they dive, they soar, they glide, they swirl, they loop through patterns with each other and around the stage. I can almost see the air swirling, and I feel the breeze of sharing the theater space with them as the dancers slice and settle through the space. The resilient weight in their movement and the way they carve through the space takes my breath away. As I wrote in the program notes for this performance, when watching Varone's movement, I often feel that I am caught up in whispers that trace the shifting tectonics of a carnival teacup ride. Dancers in Varone's company fluidly thread themselves through various positions and uses of weight, and I find myself breathless and wanting more. Even if you find that you do not share my kinesthetic reaction, I'm sure you will find something similarly compelling in the work. Doug Varone makes dances of epic proportion. His dancers carry the weight of the world, and his dances evidence the weight of being human. At the end of the day, we are all in this together. This comes through in the three dances on the program tonight: Karugi, Able to Leap Tall Buildings, and Rise. Varone set Karugi to a Mozart oratorio based on the biblical story of Judith. It celebrates the music and hearkens to images and themes that surround the Judith legend, but the dance does not necessarily tell the story of Judith. Varone took what he found as the essentials of the arias and recitatives, themes of duplicity, jealousy, comradeship, memory, and worked so that each dancer embodies aspects of these themes. Able to Leap Tall Buildings is an excerpt from a longer work called Mouth Above Water. The movement for the duet was generated from the way action figures move, and the dance poses questions of how we relate to each other. These two dances are both new, premiered within the last year. Rise, the third piece, is the veteran dance from 1993, and it was a landmark work for Varone because it defined the movement style for which he became known. I love seeing established repertory on dance concerts alongside new work, especially dances that are such important works for the choreographer. As I prepared this talk, I thought about what was going on in 1993. Bill Clinton's first term, the Gulf War aftermath, the World Trade Center bombing, the gay rights movement, activism following LA race riots, Middle East peace talks, the grunge scene. We can find parallels in current events, but we can also think of all that has transpired since 1993. And in this way, the dance takes on a deeper meaning when we think about how it reached us then and what it does now. In terms of the movement, some of it is the same and some of it is different. Dancing bodies have changed in the past 20 years due to training and cross-fertilization of movement and theoretical ideas in the dance field. Logistically, dancers of varying physicalities perform roles once inhabited by others. The Rise of 2013 retains the guts of the Rise of 1993. As Varone continues to present this dance with different casts, he retools the choreography, makes changes for the current dancer's strengths, edits the movement phrasing, and reworks lifts to maintain the same power and impact as the first time around. Among the differences tonight from the 1993 version also is the dancing absence of Varone, who performed in the red costumed duet. So as you see that tonight, you can think about how this dance has evolved and changed over these 20 years and what it might have looked like with different casts. This dance was out of repertoire for a while. Varone performed it until the early 2000s and then brought it back for the company's 25th anniversary season a couple years ago. There are many ways of bringing a dance back to the stage after a prolonged absence. Varone works exclusively with video. He keeps records of performances, and he also makes what he calls breakdown tapes of the choreography. And this is where the living, fleshy preservation happens. These breakdown tapes involve going into the studio with the cast and a camera and recording each movement phrase and section of the dance with the dancers who originated those roles to create a visual, moving primary source of the insides of the dance. For those of you who make dances, recording your choreography and process on video, on paper or otherwise, is something to think about when considering the legacy of your work and also the ability to return to a work you have not performed in a while. For all of us who watch dances, these reflections are something to consider when we see established repertoire. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the company and what it has been doing lately. Varone founded Doug Varone and Dancers in New York in 1986, at a time when many dancers and choreographers of what is sometimes called late postmodern dance came of age. Late postmodern dance is generally defined as beginning in the early 1980s and more or less continued through the late 1990s, early 2000s. Things started to blend and we're in this space that people are calling contemporary dance, but it's still very fluid. It's always interesting to try to think about where you are now and what sort of thing this is called. But late postmodern dance characteristically contains exciting physicality and technical display, meaty thematic material, non-narrative movement for its own sake, autobiographical journeys, and non-linear choreographic narrative structures. It's a lot of exhilarating dance that comes from many starting points. Varone's work certainly fits this description. One of the things I'll be talking about in the course I'm teaching at the festival this summer is how models of making work and company structures have changed in the past 25 years and what that means for dance. Doug Varone is an example of a choreographer who has weathered the storm of funding agencies and support while being able to employ his dancers year-round. Many choreographers, for various creative, financial, and logistical reasons, have shifted to a company model that includes a series of residencies in which to build a dance instead of a model of continuous daily rehearsals with an annual season, which is how many modern and contemporary dance companies worked for years. Through creative and economic avenues, Varone has maintained a standing company in New York. As a performance maker interested in many facets of dance and theater, Varone has long worked in opera and theater, Broadway, off-Broadway productions, in addition to film and TV. You can read about that in the program, outside of concert dance, and he brings his company with him to these venues. When he choreographs for the Metropolitan Opera, for example, his company members perform in the opera and become salaried performers for the Met during that time. This model offers fiscal flexibility, as the dancers are employed year-round, with funds from Varone's company and from the other institutions with whom Varone collaborates. Also with this model, Varone is able to provide his dancers with year-round work that expands their artistic palettes and offers them consistent rehearsals and touring projects. So they're able to be consistently in the studio working together, and they're paid alternately by Varone's company and by the institution with whom they are working. Since 2007, Doug Varone and Dancers has been the company in residence at the 92nd Street Young Men, Young Women's Hebrew Association, also known as the 92nd Street Y, on the Upper East Side in Manhattan. The Y has a long-standing relationship with modern and contemporary dance that dates back to the 1930s. Being in residence at the Y has proved a fruitful marriage of both organizations' missions. It has also given Varone's company a home. They have a consistent place to work full days and do not have to schlep through the boroughs to find studio space. Varone is able to work for a couple hours in the morning in the studio, give the company a full class when they arrive, and then have the afternoon for creative work. The company collaborates with the Y on various educational programming as well. This is one model that can sustain both organizations while furthering the missions of both, making Varone and his company accessible to a broader community, and having a prominent dance company in residence at the Y. One event that Varone has recently created in this vein is a lecture demonstration performance series called Stripped/Dressed that shows the audience the dance's insides so they can glimpse the process behind the product. The stripped dressed presentations take place in a studio, or in a small performance space, or in a library, or in some other kind of community space. When the company presents these stripped dressed events on tour, they often will bring in local bands to play and find ways to improvise them so that there's a real joining of the company with the goings-on in the community. The first half of the strip dress event consists of Varone discussing the work with the audience, discussing the work that the audience will see, along with the dancers performing excerpts in rehearsal clothes, as Varone and the dancers show how certain movement phrases came to be. So this first part is so-called stripped of technical theatrical performance elements. The second half of the event contains the dancers performing these works in full, or dressed. Varone defines this strip dress concept as a format in which to tear the dance apart and put it back together again. He says that it's a way to open the dialogue about what contemporary dance is, how to view it, and then eventually how to see it. These events have generated productive dialogues about the work and about discussing contemporary dance more generally. And in the end, the audience, too, is able to access Varone's work both from the inside out and from the outside in, a similar goal of these talks. So I hope that this talk has given you a little glimpse into the insides of the dances that you will see tonight. I'm around and always happy to continue the discussion. Please enjoy the performance.